I'm a Spirit Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. And today, we have just gotten the Home Depot Halloween 2025 animatronic lineup revealed. I want to give a huge thank you out to Home Depot for providing me with an early look at all these animatronics, including the demo videos, stock photos, and prices. And now today, I'm able to show all of you all of the amazing animatronics that Home Depot has for Halloween 2025. Now, I'm sure a ton of you, including myself, are eager to know when the online launch date will be for Home Depot Halloween 2025. And well, I did get confirmation from Home Depot to share with all of you that the online launch date will be on August 4th. Yes, you heard me correctly. All the items that you see in today's video will be available online to purchase on August 4th. And I know a lot of you were really excited to hear that, so there you go. We are used to seeing Home Depot reveal all of their Halloween items in mid-July, but now this year is a smidge bit different as we are now seeing it in late July, with today being July 29th. And before I do move on to my first animatronic, I do want to say that some of the items that we did see back in the manager meeting have been recalled / canceled, as for example the Jack-in-the-Box clown. This one is not going to be retailed for 2025. However, we could see it return in 2026. I'm not too sure on that just yet, as well as the Easter Bunny. He could be an Easter release, but I would have expected him to be in the Halloween release. So those two most likely got recalled until a later date, or just completely scrapped, so I didn't want to include that. Kicking off today's video is going to be a super exciting animatronic, with this being the Bride of Frankenstein. Now last year, obviously, we got the Frankenstein animatronic, and now this year, we're going to be getting his bride, and this one is absolutely astonishing. This is such a tech-savvy animatronic. It features so much animation. As it moves side to side, its arms move up and down, and then it has a servo head. Overall, just an awesome animation-wise prop, and an overall awesome looking prop. Now, I will mention, it is plain, but it's super movie accurate, and that's the whole thing they're trying to go for. I love the white dress that she has, and then her arms with the mummy wrap bandages just look absolutely amazing and definitely really movie accurate. They even have the white streaks in her hair, and the face is just on point. Overall, this animatronic looks absolutely phenomenal. Frankenstein's Bride even features 4 phrases directly from the movie, which is absolutely awesome, so adding even more to that licensed animatronic. And overall, I will say that I do think she is better than the Frankenstein animatronic we got last year, just because of all of the animation. I think that overall, this is an absolutely awesome animatronic, and I will mention it stands 6 feet tall. It is being retailed for the same price of Frankenstein, with that being $279, and that is a completely fair price. And I do also want to mention that Frankenstein is going to be tagging along his bride this year because he is going to be returning for 2025. After that is probably going to be one of my favorite animatronics from Home Depot this year, with this being the 6.5 foot tall Ultra Skelly. And this thing is absolutely insane because you can customize it however you like through an app. And probably the best part about it is not only that you can actually choose the phrases via Bluetooth, you can talk live. Yes, you heard me correctly. You can literally talk to people that are walking by this prop live as you can see what they're doing, and you don't have to have it pre-recorded or anything. You can literally just hop on the app and start talking to people, which is absolutely amazing and nothing like we've ever seen before, and definitely one of the best technology upgrades we've ever seen in an animatronic. The Ultra Skelly features even more custom features, with one of them being that you can actually change the colors in his ribcage area between the colors red, yellow, green, light blue, blue, purple, and white, which is absolutely amazing. So you have how many? You have like 7 different options to actually choose of that ribcage color. And then you also, he has LCD eyes, and you have 18 options of LCD eyes to actually have on his eyes. 18. Hear that again. 18 different LCD eye options, which is absolutely amazing, and they also move and blink, so that's just absolutely insane to think about. Again, you have to hear it. 18 different LCD eyes that you can choose from, which is absolutely insane. Definitely the most LCD eye options we have ever seen in retail, and pretty much from anywhere, which is absolutely amazing. This thing is just breaking the internet, as you can literally customize it however you like pretty much. It even features posable fingers, which is just crazy. I mean, who would have thought you can pose the fingers? That's just absolutely amazing. I can go on and on about this thing because this is so awesome. But overall, I think the Ultra Skelly is definitely one of the best animatronics we have ever gotten in retail. Now that I'm done ranting on and on about the Ultra Skelly, or so you thought, it gets even better because he's being priced at $279, which is absolutely insane. That is it. Not $300, not $350, $279 for this customizable animatronic, which is a phenomenal price. One of the best prices that we have ever gotten of all time. Think about it, $279 for an animatronic that you can literally make into anything you would like. That is absolutely awesome and definitely a steal, and I will definitely be buying the Ultra Skelly for 2025. I, of course, can't forget about Skelly, the main man himself who started the whole giant trend, and dare I say, is the reason we even got the Ultra Skelly. But there's nothing too much to say about the 12-foot skeleton, as we all know and love him. He does have those LCD eyes, and overall, he's just a beauty. He is being retailed for $299, once again, which I think is a completely fair price, especially considering that he is outdoor rated and is 12 feet tall. Skelly is being tagged along by two new pets, with the first one being Skelly's cat. And now this one does look really cool. I really love all the detailing that went into it. And I also really love the head, and it does feature some LED eyes, not LCD, just those LEDs. I think it's definitely a cool prop, and it's being retailed for $199. So if you do want Skelly to have another pet, then the Skelly's cat is definitely worth $199 in my opinion. Skelly's second new pet is going to be the sit-in dog. Not the dog, just the sit-in dog. And this one does feature some LCD eyes. It has 8 different options that both move and blink. So that's definitely an awesome added feature. And I really love the bones on this guy as well, just like all the other skeletons. I think they look really awesome. And those LCD eyes are definitely one of the main parts about him that really make him lifelike and just an awesome prop. And he's being retailed for $249. And this guy stands 5 feet tall, not 5 feet long, 5 feet tall. So for the price of $249, I think it's a good bang for your buck. And then our final skeleton is going to be the returning Skelly's dog, which obviously it wouldn't be Skelly without his OG Skelly's dog that was obviously from last year and now returning for 2025. And this guy is 7 feet long, not tall, 7 feet long. Also features some LCD eyes, and overall I think that this is probably my favorite pet that Skelly does have. And it also has a movable jaw, which is really nice, and I just really love how it overall looks. I love that you can actually see every bone that it has, and compared to the other dog, it's not sitting down. I think that this one is probably the best, and this one is only $199 compared to the other one, it's $249, but I still think that they're both great, but I would personally prefer Skelly's dog over Skelly's sit-in dog. Another giant that we have is going to be the 15-foot tall Galley Crow. And this thing has a 12.5-foot wide arm span, or shall I say wingspan. Get it because it's a crow? Alright, no. Okay. But the Galley Crow is an awesome animatronic, and I really do like it. I love that it's a mix of a tree and a crow. I think that looks really awesome and definitely a really unique concept. However, I do think it works better on the other animatronic, which I'll get into in just a couple seconds. But I really love the overall look of the Galley Crow, and I really love its head. I think that's definitely one of the main parts about it. It makes it look really awesome. It also has those LEDs in the eyes, and then it also has a flame effect in the mouth and then in the rib cage, which look really awesome, and especially in the demo you can see them going. It looks really, really great. I really love the overall sculpt of the tree as well. I think it looks super realistic, especially in that rib cage area. I think overall the Galley Crow is a great animatronic. Another thing I want to say is that the Galley Crow actually has some head movement side to side, which looks absolutely amazing, and it's really awesome to see a giant, especially 15 feet tall, that does have head movement, and I'm really excited to see how that does work out in the wind. But knowing Home Depot, their quality is top of the line when it comes to retail, so it definitely will withstand the wind 100%, and it also does come with some ground stakes to hold it in place. So overall, I think that this looks awesome. And another added thing I do want to say is that the clothing, very simple, however, it definitely adds to this animatronic. And as you can see, there's a photo without it of the clothing, and that thing looks pretty weird, so the clothing definitely adds to it. I love the creepy cloth hanging down from it, and then that hood is definitely one of the main parts that definitely stand out to me when I first looked at the Galley Crow, and he's being retailed for $399, which I think is definitely a fair price, especially considering that he's 15 feet tall and then is 12.5 feet wide. So for only $400, I think that the Galley Crow is definitely worth it. After the Gallicrow is going to be the Worricrow, and I did look up what Worricrow means, and it's a devil-type creature that has some bad ambitions, and that definitely makes sense for this animatronic. And I will also mention that he is also 15 feet tall, just like the Gallicrow, and they're sort of a reskin of each other, as they both have that same base mold with the tree. And I do think that the Worricrow is definitely better, just because it fits the concept more, and I really like how it looks overall. I really like how the tree trunk is now brown this time. But on the topic of the Worricrow, not comparing them anymore, I really love his ribcage area, as it does have that yellow LED. And then the clothing also looks really nice with that straw coming out of the sleeves. I think it looks really awesome. And then especially that head sculpt, it's just really realistic. It has that flame light in the head and then in the ribcage. And then also that straw hair. I know it's a very subtle detail, but I think it definitely adds to this character a lot. Overall, I think that the Worricrow is an awesome animatronic. And this one also has a 12.5 foot wingspan / arm span. And this one is also being retailed for $399. I think that, once again, this is an absolutely phenomenal price, especially for a 15-foot tall giant that's outdoor rated. Moving on to more licensed animatronics, we have Tiffany. And Tiffany, it has to be one of the best licensed animatronics we have ever gotten, just because of how movie accurate she is. I mean, Home Depot is just on point when it comes to license. They look super accurate to how they do in the movie / TV show. And I think that Tiffany is no different. I really love all the detail, and she even has that tattoo with Chucky. And then I really love all the servos just packed into her. I think that they make for a super lifelike animatronic. She even blinks. She has the eyes that actually move, and she has that up and down arm movement with the knife. Now, like I mentioned when I talked about her previously on my channel, I would have liked her to have a different weapon than the knife, but I do still think it works, and I do like it more now seeing it with her in action. And I think it definitely looks really awesome. She also has 5 iconic phrases from the Child's Play movie, and she's being retailed for $229, which, I mean, the prices this year from Home Depot are absolutely amazing. $229 for this servo animatronic that stands 3.5 feet tall. So once again, the height is even movie accurate, and then that price for $230, you really can't go wrong with Tiffany. And of course, I can't forget about the scarred variant of Chucky. Last year in 2024, we did get just Chucky by himself, and he is returning for 2025. But now the new variant of 2025 is going to be the scarred Chucky. And I do personally prefer this variant over the original, just because I love all the detail that went into this one. As you can see, the stitching, he has chunks of hair ripped out. I think overall this one looks really awesome. And I even love the blood on the knife that they added. Really small detail, but it definitely adds to this animatronic. And again, tons of servos packed into this guy. He even has a servo wrist that moves outwards, and then that head. But I mean, you still do have all those movements, and then you have that servo wrist, which is really awesome. And I think Chucky is definitely an awesome licensed animatronic. Just like Tiffany, Chucky is 3.5 feet tall, and is also being retailed for $229, which once again, that is such a phenomenal price, especially for this animatronic with all the servos. And I mean, it's Chucky. Come on. You can't go wrong with Chucky for only $229. So definitely buy him right now. But he isn't available, so hopefully soon he will go up on the website, because he's definitely going to sell out fast. Another licensed animatronic is going to be Maleficent from Disney. And now this is a really unexpected licensed animatronic. And I think that this is probably one of the best licensed animatronics that we probably have gotten from Home Depot, as I really do like how she looks overall. I think that that staff she has looks awesome, and it does have that green LED inside there on that ball on the top, and she actually has her crow on the staff where the ball is, and his mouth actually moves, which they could have just kept the mouth static, but they decided to add the mouth movement, which just makes this prop 10 times better. And then Maleficent herself looks absolutely awesome. I'm so movie accurate. The outfit, the detail that went into that outfit is just absolutely outrageous. The staff, I do also want to mention, she moves the staff sort of out and in, which I think is also a really awesome added animation. And then she also has that head movement. Overall, Maleficent is an absolutely stunning animatronic, and I think that overall this is probably one of the best animatronics that we have gotten from Home Depot in the license category. Maleficent also speaks 5 different phrases, and then she also has those LED eyes, and stands 6.5 feet tall, which is a really awesome height. And then she is being retailed for $279, which once again, the prices are on point with Home Depot this year. For only $279, you can get Maleficent that has tons of movement and is super movie accurate. that's a no-brainer. Next up is going to be one of Home Depot's most impressive animatronics of all time, with this being the 8-foot Wyvern. And this thing is just absolutely amazing. And this is definitely such an impressive animatronic, especially in the retail industry, as this has a super unique animation where the neck actually moves forward in a way to give it that hunch, and then it also has mouth movement. Another awesome added detail for added lighting is that in its rib cage and neck area, you can actually choose between the colors red, green, and blue to illuminate his stomach, which is absolutely amazing and definitely an awesome added detail. I do personally like the green the most on this guy because I think it does really fit how this guy looks, but you have 3 different color options, which is really awesome. And then also you can just tell that the wingspan is going to be absolutely massive in real life, because not only is he 8 feet tall, but he has that giant wingspan. So overall, just an absolutely giant animatronic. And I also really like the scales going along his neck and stuff. And then he also has those horns on the wings. And let me go more in depth with the wings. The wings look really good, I have to be honest. The wings, you can see that cloth. It just looks really accurate to how a dragon would look in real life. And also the legs and then the tail. There's just so much to go on and on about this animatronic because it is so impressive. But this is being retailed for $399. And that does sound like a lot to ask for, especially $400 to be spending on a Halloween animatronic. But you do have to picture that this thing is going to be giant, and it's one of the most impressive animatronics we have gotten in retail in a while. So I do think $400 is worth it for the Wyvern. This next animatronic is going to be a super exciting one because this is going to be the 4-foot tall Cursed Clover, and this is going to be a leprechaun, so part of their creepy holiday collection. However, most of their items in that collection did get recalled. There was also an Easter bunny, and that is not going to be happening for Halloween. And then the snowman, I do believe, is Christmas. So stay tuned for that. You will be hopefully getting a first look at that very soon. But now we do have the Cursed Clover. And the Cursed Clover looks absolutely amazing. I really love it, and I love that Home Depot is actually going into the creepy holiday aspect. I think that the Cursed Clover definitely turned out amazing. I love his axe that he has, and his arm does move up and down with that. And then that bag with the coins in it, I think that's an awesome added detail. And then the overall face sculpt, I think it looks really awesome. The only thing is, it does look a bit cartoony, but I do really love his beard and then that little sort of spot that he has gray hairs. I think overall, the sculpt is really nice and the overall look is really nice, as well as those clothes he has. They're really typical looking leprechaun clothes, but they are dirty, which definitely adds to this animatronic a lot, because we typically don't see clothes that actually have some added detail of oil stains or anything like that, but the leprechaun does have that, and that's why he has to be one of the best. The Cursed Clover does also feature some really awesome phrases, and he also does have some mouth movement. While the mouth doesn't move too much, it does still look cool, and it's definitely a nice animation. And I also like his eyes. Now, it's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I do like that his eyes are really big for that cartoony effect, and then with those yellow LEDs. I think this animatronic was really well done. And wait until you hear the price, as he is being retailed for $179. That is a phenomenal price. You're getting a 4-foot tall Cursed Clover / leprechaun animatronic, and this thing is just absolutely amazing. The detail, everything about this. So $179 is definitely worth it for the Cursed Clover. Our next animatronic is going to be another super exciting one, this being the 7.5-foot tall Nightshade Witch. And now this one was a highly anticipated animatronic, and well, let me say that this thing looks even better than it did in the manager meeting. I really love the new clothing that she does have with the black compared to the purple. I really love the overall look of this one, and I will mention that in the broom that she holds, you can actually change the LEDs inside of her broom. That's an awesome added detail, which is absolutely insane just to think about. And then also, she features 8 different LCD eye options, as we did already know. But now we do have the confirmation once again that she will have 8 different LCD eye options, which is insane. And she does also feature some servo movements, as she has a servo head and then that servo wrist. So really unique animations on her, and also really great added details, just like those LEDs in the broom and then those LCD eyes. So overall, I think that the Nightshade Witch is an absolutely awesome animatronic. The Nightshade Witch is being retailed for $199, which is absolutely absurd as she has 2 servo movements. You can change the LEDs in her broom, and you can change her LCD eyes, which is absolutely crazy. And another nice added detail, but that's very subtle, but definitely adds to this animatronic, is the crow with those red LED eyes. The red LED eyes really round out the crow and make it actually stand out. So overall, $199 for the Nightshade Witch. That is an absolute steal. A prop that has gotten a lot of buzz ever since we first saw it is going to be the 7-foot-tall Megalodon Shark, and this thing is absolutely awesome. I love this prop, and I think it is one of the best props from Home Depot this year. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's true. There's just so many great items. The Megalodon Shark has awesome detail on all those cuts on it, even on the face. The cuts look awesome, and I also love the fins. Highly detailed fins. You can see all the wrinkles in the shark. Overall, the detailing is spot on. And then especially the main part of this prop has to be the mouth. You can see all the glossiness, and then it has 2 razor sharp rows of teeth, and it also does actually have some red LEDs inside the mouth for added lighting to illuminate his mouth, which is absolutely awesome. And then those eyes also do have some red LEDs, so you have 2 parts that are illuminated coming with this prop without you even having to use light, which is absolutely awesome. And this is being retailed for $349, which totally makes sense because you're getting a 7-foot-tall Megalodon Shark that is fully blow molded plastic with tons of detail. So I think that the Megalodon Shark is definitely one of the most impressive animatronics from Home Depot. Going right along with the Megalodon Shark is going to be the 6.5-foot-tall Fisherman animatronic, and this is another really neat one as I really like his rocking animation back and forth. As we did see this on another Fisherman animatronic, I do think that this one is probably the best as he does also include some mouth movement, which I find really fluid and really great. And I also like how the fishing rod has a dead skeletal fish on it. I think that that's really nice. And then again, a really small added detail. I really like going in depth on all the added details. That he does have a shark tooth necklace. So definitely tons of added details going into this guy. Just like every other prop, I think that Home Depot is definitely the best company when it comes to hidden and just details overall. But overall, the Fisherman animatronic is really cool, and he's being retailed for $229, which is a phenomenal price as you're getting a 6.5-foot-tall animatronic that does feature some rocking animation and then mouth movement. Another animatronic that's super impressive and I'll most likely be getting is going to be the 8-foot-tall Tumble the Troll. And this guy is a reskin of Carnival Carl from last year, as they both have that mallet. But I do personally enjoy this guy better than Carnival Carl, as I think the ogre looks really awesome. Now the only thing I will say is I do think the head looks kind of odd, as it sort of looks like a triangle as it gets like thinner and thinner near the top. I don't really get why they did that, but I do still think it is definitely a nice head, and I really like his mouth with the teeth. I think the 2 giant teeth look really awesome, especially for an ogre, giving that more lifelike feel for the ogre animatronic. And I also really like his giant club that he moves up and down with those spikes on it. I think that's really awesome. But overall, you can just tell that the ogre is going to be giant. I mean, you can just take a look at his feet, his head. You can just tell that the proportions are going to be absolutely giant on this guy, as he also stands 8 feet tall, and he's being retailed for $249, which I think is really worth it. Another small but really awesome added detail is that when he gets angry, his eyes actually change the LED colors, as when he's not angry, they're yellow, but then when he does get angry, they're red, which is a really, really unique concept and a really awesome added detail for Tumble the Troll. After that is going to be the Zombie Stack Trio, and now these ones are a reskin of Trickster Trio from last year, and just like Trickster Trio, you can choose to either have them stacked up or to have them separate, and I do personally prefer these guys over the Trickster Trio because I do really like their face sculpts. As you can see, they have some blood and sort of gore on their faces, and then that top guy actually holds a baseball bat and his arm moves up and down with that, and then they all talk back and forth to each other, which I think is a nice added detail. But I'm just not a huge fan of these guys. I do think there's definitely better that could have been done with them, and they're being retailed for $199, which, if you do want to get these guys, I do think that's definitely a fair price, especially considering that you're technically getting 3 different animatronics for the price of 1. Another reskin without making 3 reskins in a row, with this one being Horrifying Hickory, which is a reskin of Murderous Maple from last year, 2024. And I do think that this one also looks really good. This is the sort of sad, depressed variant. And I also really like all the moss that's hanging down and then all that sort of leaves and stuff. I think it looks really awesome. And I really like the sculpt of this guy. Really realistic. And this one is being priced for $279, which, I mean, I do think that's a bit steep, especially considering that you're getting a static tree, but it does also come with different LED options for the face, 7 different options actually, and it stands 9 feet tall. So I guess it does justify the price of $279, but Horrifying Hickory just isn't for me. Circling back to the license category, we have the 5.5 foot tall Evil Queen being officially licensed from Disney's Snow White, and of course, she does feature her famous poisonous apple in her right hand, and actually does have a green LED in it, and then it has that face that it does have in the movie to show that it's obviously poisonous. And I do also like that she has a basket of obviously non-poisonous apples. I think that that's really awesome. And then her overall face, the sculpt on the face looks really nice. I really love her pointy nose. I think that's a nice added touch. And those green LEDs, I think that that's also really nice. And she just moves side to side with her torso movement and then that mouth movement. I think that overall the Evil Queen is definitely really well done, and she's being retailed for $279, which I do think that's definitely worth it, especially because she's licensed and is very movie accurate. Our second to last licensed animatronic is going to be the deluxe version of Jack Skellington. And back in 2021, we did get another Jack Skellington animatronic that was pretty much the same as this. It's just that this time he does feature a latex head compared to the plastic one. But besides that, I still think he's a really awesome animatronic, and especially he's movie accurate. He's being retailed for $259, which once again, I do think that's worth it, especially considering that he's being officially licensed from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And then our final licensed animatronic is going to be the deluxe version of Sally, being officially licensed from The Nightmare Before Christmas, just like Jack. And once again, this is a reskin of the 2021 version, but this time she does actually feature some mouth movement, which I find really awesome. And then she also moves side to side, which once again, I think that Sally's also really movie accurate and definitely worth the price of $259. So there is Sally. Next up is going to be the 6.5 foot tall Butcher animatronic, and I do enjoy this animatronic quite a lot, and it is a reskin of Soul Slasher from last year, as it does have that point and arm movement, but he does also feature some side to side head movement, which is different from Soul Slasher. But on the topic of the Butcher, I really love his overall outfit, and I think that's awesome that he does actually have some jeans that you can tell for pants. However, I would have liked a bit more blood on this guy, as he doesn't feature any blood whatsoever. I think that a butcher definitely needs to have some blood, as that's kind of the whole point of it. It butchers people. So I would have definitely liked some blood on this guy. But I do think that the pig face definitely looks really cool. It has those red LEDs in there. And I love that the mouth is actually open. I think that overall the pig face is definitely one of the main parts about this that makes it really cool. And he's being retailed for $179, which I think is definitely a fair price, as you're getting 2 animations, and then overall, just the Butcher himself is a really good prop. Up next, we have one of the, I guess I would call, budget props of the year, this one being the Fiery Reaper. And I'm not a huge fan of this guy. I don't think he's terrible, but I definitely don't like him, I will say. He does stand 7.5 feet tall, which is definitely awesome, and he does have that scythe, and then that scroll that he does have, which I do like that the scroll is actually illuminated. I think that's a really nice added touch. But I mean, I don't know, it's just really not for me. He does have that arm with the scroll that moves up and down, which I think is nice. But I mean, he's just not one that I really like and not one that I really think about getting. But he's being priced for $179, which I do think that that's definitely a good price. As I mentioned, he is a budget prop. So for people that do want a prop that's good, but still not on the expensive side, I do think that the Fiery Reaper is going to be your go-to. Our second budget prop is going to be the Guardian of the Gourds, and I do personally prefer this guy over the Fiery Reaper. I do think that this guy looks really awesome with that pumpkin head, and then his mouth does actually move, which he does have that giant mouth, which I find really cool, and then he does also have that staff that he's holding, which, I mean, I'm still not a huge fan of this guy, but it's definitely a good budget prop, as he's only $129. So for only $129, you're getting a 7 foot tall pumpkin animatronic. And I do think that this is definitely worth the price. I also really like his straw hair and then that really tall top hat that he does have, which is the reason why he is 7 feet tall. Another reskin, which we are seeing a lot of reskins this year from Home Depot, with this one being the 6.5 foot tall Raven animatronic, and this is going to be a reskin of the Plague Doctor from last year, and I think that this one definitely knocks the Plague Doctor out of the park. I really love that this Raven has some side-to-side head movement and then some mouth movement. And I also do like that he also has the same animation where he throws out the staff as the Plague Doctor. I think that the lantern is also a nice added touch on this Raven, and I think that the lighting in there definitely adds to this, as you do get some added lighting with the Raven animatronic, and I do like the feathers around his hood. I think that that looks really awesome, and then that red glowing LED eyes. Overall, I think that the Raven is definitely a really cool animatronic. It's just not something that I'm totally into, and definitely not one that I will be getting. But he's being retailed for $199, which that's a phenomenal price. So if you do want him, that is a phenomenal price, and I definitely recommend buying him. We then have the 6.5-foot tall Grave Robber animatronic, and this is a super unique one. Nothing like we've ever seen before, especially on a Gravedigger animatronic, as not only is he on a dirt mound that is included with the prop, he actually has a jump scare where his right foot actually pops up because there's a skeleton head beneath the ground, which is absolutely awesome and super unique, especially for a Gravedigger. I also like the shovel that he does hold to give it that effect that he is obviously a Gravedigger, and he was mining for gold as he is named the Grave Robber, but instead he found a skeleton head under his boot. I also like the burlap bag that he holds, and then his face. His face is really awesome. However, I'm not completely sure why he does have a green skin tone. I think that that is a bit out of place, but I do like those sort of almost stitching lines going across his eyes. I'm not completely sure what they are, but I think that those are definitely a nice added touch. I also really love the Grave Robber's attire, and I really love that necklace that he has with those bones on it. And the Grave Robber is being retailed for $249, which is 100% worth it, as you're getting a jump scare prop that stands 6.5 feet tall. And overall, the detail on this thing is absolutely amazing. So $249 for the Grave Robber is definitely worth it. This next animatronic is a returning animatronic, but also technically a brand new one, this being the pirate ship, as back in 2019 we did get a pirate ship from Home Depot that was very similar to this one. It's just that the only thing is that the pirate and the ship are now updated a bit, but still pretty much the same exact thing. Now the pirate ship does stand 9.5 feet tall, which I think is really awesome, but it's not because of how tall the ship actually is, it's just because of that banner that it does have. That's pretty much the reason why it's so tall. With the skeleton on there, I would say that the skeleton's max height is around 5.5 feet tall, as the skeleton himself is 5 feet tall, but then if you do add the ship, so definitely not too tall. And this pirate ship is being retailed for $399, which I do think that that is a lot to ask for, especially because it only has one animation, which is the pirate actually steering the steering wheel, which, I mean, that is a bit lackluster. I would have liked the pirate to actually have some side-to-side head movement. I do think that that definitely would have added to it, or maybe some added lighting somewhere on the ship, but there is the pirate ship. We're going to be getting another version of the Hearse this year, with this one standing 5 feet tall and still having that skeleton on the front. I do like the lanterns that it does have, and the overall Hearse does look pretty neat. But it's being retailed for $399, which I do think that's a lot to ask for, especially considering that you're just getting a pretty much plain skeleton and then just the Hearse by itself. So $400 I do think is definitely a lot to ask for, but we are going to be getting another Hearse for 2025. Another budget prop from Home Depot this year is going to be the 7-foot tall zombie Barber, and I really like the head sculpt on this guy. I like the red LEDs he does feature, and then that top hat, it probably adds an extra foot to him, making him that 7 feet tall. And he does also have some side-to-side head movement, and then his arm with the razor actually moves up and down. And this guy is being retailed for $129. So you're getting 2 animations for this prop, and he stands 7 feet tall. So for $129, you can't go wrong with the zombie Barber. Moving on to more witches, we have the 5.5-foot tall Witches Scene, and I'm not a huge fan of these guys. I think that we definitely could have gotten something a bit more unique, as these are just witches that are almost jabbing their like brewing stick into the cauldron, which I don't really get. But I do like the green bubbles with those LEDs sort of flickering to give it that effect that the bubbles are almost popping in there. And they do have mouth movement, which I mean, it doesn't really make up for the prop. I don't think it's the best overall from Home Depot. I do like that the one does hold a possum. I think that that's nice, but I don't think that the Witch's Scene is anything too special, and definitely not something that I'm a big fan of, but it is being retailed for $249, which I do think that is a lot to ask for, especially considering that you're getting these 2 props that are pretty plain, and then they're literally jabbing the broomstick into the cauldron. I'm just not a huge fan of these guys, but if you are, I do think $249 isn't the worst price. Another witch is going to be the 3-foot tall witch with cauldron. This one does have some mouth movement, and then the cauldron it has actually has a frog in it that pops up, which I think is a nice jump scare. And while I'm not a huge fan of the witch, I still definitely like her overall attire, and I think that that looks really nice. And I also do like the wand that she holds. She's going to be retailed for the shocking price of $40, which is an absolute steal in my opinion. Our final witch animatronic, with this being another Spellcasting Witch, which this one is probably going to be the best witch out of them all. A lot of witches using that one sentence, but this one looks pretty cool. It does have that arm movement again, that it sort of throws it out, and on the hand it does actually have a third eye, as they call it, which I do find pretty cool, and that's why it's called the Spellcasting Witch. She does also have that broom and some mouth movement, but once again, not anything too special with these past three witches. She does stand 7 feet tall though, which is definitely a bonus, and she is being retailed for $129, which I do think that this is definitely a fair price, especially considering that you are getting that jump scare with the arm sort of thrown at you. Our final animatronic is going to be the 12-foot levitating Reaper, who's returning from last year. And well, I'm not going to talk about him because he is a returning animatronic, but he's going to be retailed for $299. But that leads me into the next thing that I'm about to say, because he's going to be getting a mini version of himself this year, standing 3 feet tall and being retailed for $39.98. And then there are also 2 more main minis that we are going to be getting for this year, with the second one being Dean the Deathologist, also being retailed for $39.98. And then our final main mini is going to be the 3-foot Worricrow, and this is obviously going to be our 15-foot giant of 2025, and it's really shocking to see that he's already going to be having a mini version of himself, which is really awesome to see, and this one is also going to be retailed for $39.98. For everybody that is curious about the brand new Archway for 2025, this is going to be the 7.5-foot tall Twisted Souls Archway, and this one might be one of my favorite archways of all time from Home Depot, as it's literally just twisting up, making that archway form of literal souls. You can see the mouths and then like almost the screaming faces in there, which is really awesome and super unique and really scary, if I'm being honest, as you literally just have faces looking at you screaming for help pretty much. And this is being retailed for $249, which is completely fair, as you're getting a literal archway that's outdoor rated, that's 7.5 feet tall, and also features some LEDs. So the Twisted Souls Archway is definitely worth that price of $249. A decoration that deserves a category of its own is going to be the 9.5-foot Arachnophobia spider, because this thing is absolutely awesome. It does have LEDs inside of its body, and they actually change between colors and they glow, which is just absolutely awesome. Super unique that they actually change as this thing activates, and also has some awesome hissing sounds. I also really like the added fur on its actual claws. I think that's also a really awesome added detail. And then it has all of those eyes, obviously those 8 spider legs, and this is being retailed for $349, which is completely fair, as not only are you getting a giant spider, but this thing glows and changes colors as it's activated, which is absolutely insane. 2 pieces that are sure to make your graveyard stand out are going to be the 8-foot Obelisk and the 5.5-foot tall Gargoyle. The Obelisk looks really awesome, as it's supposed to be that tombstone that has tons of detail and is being retailed for $169. And then the Gargoyle is being retailed for $99. And this thing is also decked out in tons of detail, and the Gargoyle itself looks really awesome. Home Depot is also going to be having a sort of mini version of the Horrifying Hickory tree for 2025, as we are going to be getting the 6-foot tall Scowling Sapling, and this is sort of just the same tree of Horrifying Hickory, instead smaller at 6 feet tall compared to 9 feet tall. And I also really like this one. I do prefer this one more, as I like the height more and just the overall look. I love the moss and then those LEDs inside of its face. This one also has a sort of angry / sad expression, and this is being retailed for $179, and this is 100% an awesome tree to have in your yard. Home Depot is also going to be having a 4-foot yard snake, and this is being retailed for $129. And then probably my favorite decor piece from Home Depot this year is going to be the 5-foot tall Ultra Pose and Stay Evil Pixie, because this thing is absolutely awesome and will go perfect with any mythical animatronic that you do get from Home Depot this year. And this is being retailed for $44.98, which is absolutely awesome. Well, that's going to be it for the Home Depot Halloween 2025 animatronic lineup, and I want to once again send a huge thank you out to Home Depot for providing me with everything you saw in today's video. And if you didn't hear in the intro, the online launch date, so when everything will go up for grabs on the Home Depot website, will be on August 4th, and let me know down in the comments below which item you're most excited to get your hands on. But anyway, make sure you remember that I'm a Spirit Keeper, and I give you a reason for every season. Bye.